Hello, am I here? Can anyone hear me? Is anyone here? No. I'm late, obviously. It wasn't a last minute disaster trying to get this sorted, I promise. Ah, man. Right, give me a couple of seconds, get my stuff sorted out. I've got no idea what I'm doing. Absolutely no idea. Is anyone here? Have I started the right stream? Hey, some people are here. It's giving me the heebie-jeebies, Christopher. I've never done this before. It's taken an awful lot of faff. Like with most things in my life, there's a simple way of doing things, and there's the overly complex, faffy way of doing things. And did I choose to stream this off my phone? No, I went the faffy way with a camera. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Oh man, I've just made a cup of tea, and the drama's making this cup of tea. I've used this jet boil, and I filled it up with water, and I was like, oh, I've left the little gas twisty knob thing tucked in. So I like turned it over to unscrew it from the gas bottle, poured water everywhere, all over my laptop, like with 2 minutes to go. And anyway, make my cup of tea, and I've got a load of water left in the jet boil. So I go outside and I'm like, well, I'll pour it, pour it over the side. I don't want to leave it in there. I pour, the lid falls off the jet boil into the marina. So I had to go fishing for that. Yeah, all good fun. Cool. 3 people at the moment, 2 of which are my crew, my race crew. Unless Sir Christopher is the other guy from my race crew, in which it's all the race crew. Fun twiddling, fun twiddling. It's difficult to tell how many people are actually in the room. It's just 4 at the moment. 5. Enze! Wow, okay. Well, what time's it over there now? Wait, you're ahead, so you just waking up? Or is it like middle of the night in New Zealand? I know where the other guys are from. They're all from Guernsey, so I'll probably turn up in a minute. 9:15 in the morning. Oh, it's not too bad. I tried to time it so that it wasn't silly for people in Europe. People in the US can dial in, although it's probably middle of the day over there. And yeah, your side of the world looks like just about feasible too. Cool. Well, I didn't really have a format for this. It was going to be like a Q&A style thing. Are you welcome to turn up, Dan? No, you're not. And you've just had a baby, so you shouldn't be turning up, damn it. Someone from the Netherlands. Awesome. Thanks for the support. Yeah, it's been an interesting year. Intermittent, I think, probably sums it up best. A flurry of videos at the start, then a bit of a dead patch, a few more videos. Then my barn exploded, and that stopped me doing anything for 10 weeks. And now, yeah, trying to hit it again. So, do you feel like the work is never ending? Yeah. So it's a 70s boat. and I bought it 4 years ago. I think last week. I think it was 5th of Feb 2019, and it was sold to us as a project boat. And having never owned, well, I had never set foot on a sailboat before I bought this one, so I had no real idea what that meant. I worked on a few cars in my time, but yeah, project boat. I looked at it and thought, it doesn't look that bad. It's got a sail, it's got a mast, and sails. All looks like it's in one piece. It's floating. Yeah, now I know. Now I know the truth. It does feel never-ending. I mean, if you took it back to 4 years ago, it didn't look much different from now. The interior was slightly duller in places and slightly better in places. It's got a new set of sails. I guess the engine's been redone. But yeah, I look at what I've still got to do in terms of fixing all the water leaks, all the electrics, making the interior family friendly, or just not completely minging. And yeah, it does feel endless. It really does. Hey Paul, how you doing? Yeah, but having never owned another boat, I don't really know how it compares. I mean, everyone has the boat jokes, aren't they? And the happiest days when you buy it and when you sell it. I think everyone spends a lot of time doing work on it. But obviously, I think you hit a certain age where the amount of work you're putting in is, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times the amount of time you're actually spent sailing. Dan's probably laughing away, thinking more like 10 times the amount. But yeah, it is what it is. It did allow me to buy the boat though, so it was very affordable. I guess the other thing is when I bought it, 3 of us bought it actually, and we split it 3 ways. And none of us had any sailing boat experience at all. And the guy that sold it to us was very upfront and honest, but we just had no idea what he was talking about. He'd be like, the bilge pump reaches this locker and won't get into the whatever. And we were just like, oh yeah, that's no problem. Didn't have a clue what he meant. Hi, Christoph. Düsseldorf, Germany. That works time-wise. Yeah, so he probably was completely honest with us and told us all the problems. We just didn't understand what those problems were, or what any of the lingo meant. But yeah. And other than that, I think the boat's had 4 or 5 owners since the 70s. One guy was really serious with it. He took it across Biscay from Jersey all the way down to Portugal, I think, and back again. So that's a fair old trip. I'm not sure I'd be doing Biscay with what I know. And if you know, you know. Never ask about the spreaders. But no, for what we do, it works. Hoping to push the boat out a bit more this year though, and do more than just kind of races around Guernsey, try and get a bit further afield. So I've got some plans in place for that, which I'll talk about if we get a few more people, and I guess if we don't, then I'll talk about them anyway. Yeah, Christopher, you're right. I don't really have a lot of choice. I mean, I guess the boat is so low value that my view is, if things get broken, looking at you, Josh, yeah, it's not the end of the world. It's not like if we tear a sail, tearing a sail is never good, but if we destroy a Genoa, we're not going to be dropping 5 grand on a new one. Yeah, I won't say any more, Josh. So just so this isn't too clicky, to make everyone aware, there's generally, I guess, 3 other people that come out racing, maybe 4, maybe 5. There's John, co-owner of the boat. You won't see much of him. Hi, John, if you're listening. There's Josh, who breaks everything. He's good. He breaks a few things. Dan, and Tim, who we haven't seen so much of this year, and occasionally my neighbour Chris helps out. So there are a few of us. The problem is the boat's always getting raced and never getting done up. I'm sure they would all turn around and say that's my fault for not getting off my arse and just getting on with it, but hey. Is the volume okay for everyone? Do I need to pump that up? Or... I don't know how much delay there is on this feed. When I tested it earlier, it was about 5 seconds. But the first time I ran it, it was about 25 seconds. And I didn't get to pick it this time because it was a scheduled feed. So I have a horrible feeling it's 25 seconds. So there could be a huge delay between what you write getting to me and my response getting to you. So, right, okay. Anyone else got any questions? Or should I just waffle on about the boat? I have some waffling. I have some pre-planned waffling. The book of stuff I was supposed to bring. For those of you that just turned up, had plenty of drama making this cup of tea. Dropped something in the marina, top of my jet boil, poured water all over my laptop. So yeah, almost didn't happen. Waffle. All right, I'll waffle away. Okay, I do have a question actually, because this is really irritating me. So, and it's probably more the fact we've jury rigged an asymmetric spinnaker onto a boat that was never designed to have one. But when we run an asymmetric and we jibe, we do an outside jibe, so we run the spinnaker around the forestay and round its own halyard or luff to the other side of the boat. And the lazy sheet, is that what you'd call it? I guess the other sheet that isn't active, always hooks around the pulpit and specifically around one of our front aspect lights, right? Port and starboard aspect lights. And we were doing a round arc race and it tore one of the lights off and I was like, oh. And so I just wonder, I guess more modern boats probably don't have their lights there. So I'm wondering, where does everyone put their aspect lights? I mean, when you look at the Acum de Mer, it looks like the perfect place for them. I'll try and get a photo up quickly to show you where they are. Just give me one sec. But yeah, it's clearly an issue on ours. It catches them. So I see we've got two options. We either start doing inside jibes with the spinnaker, where we pull it between the forestay and its own luff, but I think that would be tight. Or we move the lights. He says, desperately searching for a picture of the lights. Surely I've got a picture of the lights. But I guess for a kind of classic-y looking boat, they look like they belong there. I don't really want them on the side of the cockpit because I can see them just getting knocked off. And they would just look a bit odd. And we don't have a flat side of cockpit, so they'd be angled at a weird angle. No, I don't really have a picture, but they're on the pulpit basically, and they're on these kind of metal sheets. Okay, anyway, I'd be interested to know where people man them. Am I planning any longer trips? Yes, so I'm just going to drop it in here and say, because I don't think we're going to get any more than how many viewers we've got, not many. So my wife asked me the other day, she said, are you okay to have the kids while I go to, I don't know where she's going, Gran Canaria or Mallorca or somewhere for a week? And I was like, oh. And I hope she's not dialed in actually, crikey. And so I said, okay, fine. But how about I get a week to go off and do some sailing? And she whittled me down and said, well, how about 5 days? And I was like, I will take 5 days. And so, yeah, I have 5 days in summer to go somewhere on the boat. So what I'm thinking of doing is, apparently I've got poor stream health. You better signal. I'm planning on going to France, basically. I don't know where. I'm actually planning on meeting up with a friend of mine over here who is a viewer, because he's got lots of experience taking his boat over to the kind of St. Malo coast up west of the peninsula there. And so I may look at doing that kind of St. Malo and then go west up to whatever is on the peninsula. Is it Brest? But I think it all dries out along there, and that's why I need to meet with my friend and ask him that. If not, I'm thinking St Malo and then do the Rance, the river that runs out of St Malo. I've kind of briefly done that on a friend's motorboat. So yeah, that looks really good. It doesn't dry out, I think, because I'm thin keel, so yeah, drying out is bad, and I wouldn't trust my boat legs. But yeah, anyway, so that's the plan. I don't know when. Maybe June, maybe July. We'll have to see what the family's got planned and what races are on, etc. But yeah, so hopefully 5 days in France. And that would be by far the longest trip I've done. The longest so far has been Jersey and back, which is 26 miles there. So yeah, quite excited about it. And I can see Dan saying he's off to work on his boat. Dan has too many boats. He's got a flotilla, but he's got a Hilliard 12 ton, which is very cool. Anyway, what else did I have to talk about? Not much really. Well, I've got a fair bit, I guess. Otherwise I wouldn't be running a YouTube channel. Electrics wise, don't ask to look around the boat. Please don't ask to look around the boat. It's too much faff. Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's cables. Can you see this? So you can't. There's a lighting cable there. There's all the junk behind there I showed in my video the other day. A lot of that's just VHF aerial, actually. And a lot of the mast lights are on these kind of huge wires because I didn't know how I was going to route them. And so a lot of it could be neatened up just by clipping some wires shorter. But really, I guess the issue is the main switchboard is kind of the opposite end of the boat from where a load of the other electronics are on, from where the battery is. And yeah, there's various sensors up the mast and there's instruments in different places outside, and they're kind of all over the boat. And then there's 5 interior lights. I guess everyone sat there thinking, well, whoopee-doo, all boats have got that. But I don't know if it's a 70s thing, but there's no cable runs. There's nowhere decent to kind of hide the cables. So everything at the moment is either surface mounted or running through lockers, and someone's just drilled holes through the lockers. Show us around the boat. All right, hold on, let me catch up. What are people saying? Planning any longer trips? Yep. If I go to Marlow and head west, you should be here in Simbaruc. Okay, cool. Well, I know there's a ton of Bacoums in France. In fact, there's a map going of Bacoums that's just restarted, so I'll have to have a look out for other people. Seen a few come into Guernsey actually. I've spoken to a few owners. Right, same topic here. My family. Yeah. They've called the boat priority. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm not quite there with that yet. But hey, I kind of need to tidy it up a bit first, get the interior a bit less mangy. But yeah, we'll get on to that. Show you around the boat. Right. This is going to be awkward. Okay. It's like you're on a mirrorless camera, and I'm not even sure I'll be able to see what you're seeing. But let's see. Right. Okay. Okay, so hold on. This is easy because this boat is tiny. You come in here, you walk down the wobbly steps. There's my victim of a jet boil. What else? You come through this companionway. There's heads on the right. There's like a very rotten, I don't know, cupboard thing where you hang clothes and life jackets there. Then there's a V-berth up front. This. Oh no! Are you still on? Yes, you're still on. Phew. I think you're still on. I hope you're still on. Anyway, this is where the the gas stove and sink were, but they all got stripped out by the co-owner. We won't talk about that. There's kind of this chart table seating area here. The chart table will be new because I've only just brought that back to the boat. It was another victim of the storm, needs a lot of repair work. It's supposed to drop down and turn into a double berth, but I haven't quite worked out how to collapse that pole thing or remove that pole thing. There's a berth down there, pilot berth, is that what they call it? Another on that side, just stuffed with spinnakers. The fuse box thing is around there as well. This is all the kind of open and loose wiring off the back of the instruments. I think if I just box that in, it would look better. Yeah, and that's kind of it. I would show you further, but you're kind of tethered to my laptop, so yeah, I'm afraid I can't. All right, hold on. Let me just plug you back in. I know what will happen. Run out of power midstream. That'd be good. Right. Oi, wobbly. For anyone that's just dialed in, they won't have a clue what's going on. Okay. Thank you for that request. I knew I should have done it on a phone. Would have been much better. Right, am I still in view? Yes, I am. I guess it mentioned somewhere, I've got like a little icon, I can't read your message. And in the video, what kind of boat is it? Okay, so it is an Akum de Mer. I should be able to reel off some information about this, but naturally I can't remember any. It's a 1974. They were made, I think, from 69 to 78. They were originally built as a IRC quarter tonner, I think, could be wrong, out of plywood with no coach roof as such. It was flush deck. It was very successful as a prototype racer. Then they found a manufacturer that wanted to make them out of fiberglass. So they made a ton of them. I think they made 4,000 of them. They made a load in Japan, France, and maybe Holland. Yeah, it's 26 foot. Masthead rig, 1.5 meter fin keel, although they did also make a 1.2 or 1.3 meter shorter keel. Later models of it had a longer coach roof. It extended forward actually, I think, so that when you're in the heads you've got a bit more room, you're not kind of crouched over. But this was the 74 short coach roof, long keel, which isn't a bad thing. Long keel is much better for racing. So yeah, what length? 26 foot. Have I found a solution to install a Jetboil gimbal? No, I tell you what I do, and obviously it's gash. I get a carabiner and I hook it on just like that, and generally that's okay. I don't know. I know like proper race boats, they always have these things, and they're always hanging off something, but I'm not sure if they have something specific to keep them upright. But yeah, that's been handy, especially seeing as John stripped the kitchen out, so no way of making cups of tea. Am I still in focus? I mean, I hope not. Probably better for everyone if it's blurry. Yeah, it's all right. This one. Yes, so that is the Jetboil. No, I have no gimbal for it, unless you include hanging it as a gimbal, which kind of is. Yeah, so this Akum, this particular one's a Jersey boat, and if you go to the Royal Yacht Club Jersey, it's won a load of races from back in its day, and it's up on the wall on some of the kind of boards for some of the big races over there. I think when I posted my first video, one of the viewers said he used to actually crew on it, and he said it's won hundreds of races, which is quite depressing to hear, really, because we don't win very much at all. And yeah, well, I guess boat technology has moved on a fair bit, but we did win a couple of trophies in the Royal Yacht Club last year, Guernsey Royal Yacht Club, or Channel Islands Royal Yacht Club. But yeah, I think that was more luck than anything else. Yeah, obviously runs under a handicap system over here. Now, our handicap has dropped over the last few years, which has made it easier to be more competitive. Being a displacement hull, it's one of those boats that it does reasonably well when it's nice and clean, and after about 3 months it starts to bleed off, and I think now yeah, when it was last clean was when we relaunched it. So when was that? July last year. So not stupidly long ago, but it's been probably 7-8 months. I did take some video footage of the bottom of it the other day with a GoPro, and it's kind of lightly furred, so not too bad. But seeing as one of the major jobs I need to do actually is it's still leaking from the stern gland, like to the point where if we motor out here and we motor back after a race, so maybe 5 minutes of running the engine, yeah, it's dripping one drip every second kind of thing. So it chucks all the grease out of the stern gland because I didn't pack it because I'm an absolute cretin. And yeah, so I have to repack it with grease all the time, and it just chucks that grease all over the engine bay, which obviously I cleaned and painted. So yeah, really annoying. So we need to dry it out. I have boat legs to do that with, and there is a drying out pad about 100 meters that way. So yeah, plan is dry it out, and then between tides, because I can't get the stern gland nut off. It hits the gearbox coupler, so I have to push the prop shaft out the back of the boat. In fact, yeah, then I'll have to remove the coupler to make some space. Then I'll need to undo the nut. Then I'll need to pack it, push prop shaft back in, coupler back on, job done. So yeah, no, we're worried about that. As Dan's just commented, the stern shower, yeah, seawater shower actually, Dan's what we normally call it. So yeah, I'm excited about doing that because it means I can safely motor long distances without the boat sinking at a fast rate. While we're out doing that, I'll not anti-foul the boat again because it's supposed to be 2-year anti-foul, and we're 7 months into it. But I'm going to get a sponge and just lightly scrub it down, just try and give it a bit of a cleanup. How's the shed looking? Oh, crikey. So again, I've probably got some pictures on my phone, but I'm not going to faff around trying to find those. The shed, so for anyone that didn't watch, there was a Storm Kieran, that hit Guernsey, predicted to be 110-mile-an-hour winds. It ended up being upper 70s, 80s. And I have this kind of very old, early 1900s or late 1800s barn. It used to be a goat barn, but it had all been sealed up to an extent, and became my workshop basically. And it was a dry enough space. I had a TV in there, had all my welding equipment, car, etc. And basically, when the storm hit, somehow it just lifted this giant corrugated iron roof. When I say giant, it was about 5 meters wide by maybe 15 meters long, so maybe 20 meters long. I'm not sure. It was a big roof, and it flipped up in the air and landed on our house and on our driveway. So yeah, it wrecked a lot of stuff. At the moment, the roof is gone. That's all been chopped up. All the timber's been chopped up and is gone. So it's just a big concrete pad with 2.5 collapsed walls around it now. So yeah, there's plans in place to do something there, but yeah, I can't really say what at the moment. But yeah, irritating to lose that space though. Although I could fit Perrochet there now. Could take it out of the water, and yeah, I don't want it out of the water again. And I feel like I've done most of the work out of the water. I would like to have fully resealed the keel last time. I obviously didn't. I tried to remove one of the steel. The French call them varangs, but I don't really know the English word for it or what varang means. But effectively, I took the keel bolts out and tried to remove one of these because they're so rusty. So I'd go and get it sandblasted and powder coated. But it turns out they're also, they're not glassed in, but there's some kind of sealant holding it in place. And we were trying with crowbars and hammers, and it just looked like we were just going to crack the fiberglass removing them. So anyway, I'd taken the keel bolts out for that. And when I took the keel bolts out, it obviously smashed away all of the filler and sealant that was above the keel plate. And so I had to redo that. I'll see if I can find a picture because I'm actually reasonably happy with how that went. But when I took it out of the water, there was like a giant rust seam around the keel. So I should really have done the whole job, but I didn't because I wanted to be back in the water. I've only got pictures of when I removed it. Hopefully this works. This hasn't worked. Hopefully you can still hear me. There we go. It has worked. Unbelievable. So yeah, that was the 2 bolts we knocked out, and you can see where it's cracked, the kind of weird filler material that's above it. And yeah, basically resealed that. Yeah, that was a fairly non-bodgy job, although you could argue it was bodgy because I didn't remove the whole lot. It broke off in a really weird way, and it didn't have any flexible sealant around the outside. It had this kind of, it was almost like polyfiller solid stuff, and I think that might be because the keels move. Obviously, when you dry the boat out, there's a lot of force on them, and so any kind of solid seal around the outside tends to crack, is what I've heard. I'm certainly no expert on it. If you look here, you can see that was the old sealant. I did my best to de-rust the plate. There's my engine when it was in the shed. This was the engine bay when I took it out, and I didn't do the whole lot because A, it's inaccessible, and it would have just been a colossal job, and again it was a case of just do the best I could. But there isn't much room between the gearbox coupler and stern gland. Stern gland isn't fitted here because I was doing alignment, but yeah, bit of a pain. Anyway, see if I'm still here. There I am. Right. Oh, did that work? I'm not actually sure that did work. Hopefully you all saw the photos I was just talking about. Yeah, any other questions? Preferably not from my race crew. I've got to do the electrics. I keep saying this, but your engine vids are a great help. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Although I think it was you, Paul, that spotted an error in one of them with the fuel timing. And the irritating thing about YouTube is you can't go back and amend anything. I'm not even sure you can add comments over it. So yeah, that was on the 15° before top dead center and the top dead center marks. But anyway, still makes sense, I think. But yeah, I enjoyed doing those engine videos. They took a very long time to edit, and obviously they ended up being over an hour each. Is the stream alright? It keeps saying to me the bad things are happening. Let me try and get my phone higher up. Can't really get it higher up. Up there. Yeah, is the stream okay? Everyone see alright? Quality okay? Audio okay? Yeah, so anyway, electrics, I don't really know when to start on that because somebody did say it's only going to be a couple of weekends work, and I don't disagree with that, but I have 2 kids and a wife, and I don't get a massive amount of free time, and so which you've probably noticed in my videos, they're very kind of like short focus sessions filmed in a very short time where I try and achieve 1 or 2 little jobs, or occasionally the engine ones, I guess, which were filmed over a very long time. But yeah, to come down here and get 2 full weekends in, I just wouldn't be able to do. But what I think I'll do is maybe modularize it a bit and start in certain areas, but with a bigger plan to have a decent finished system. But as I said in the electrics video, the first thing I want to do is kind of draw out a top-down view of the boat, map out where all the sensors and electrical instruments are. Thanks, Dan. And then yeah, draw kind of optimal paths between them and where I can have kind of hubs of bus bars and things like that. Versus what I've got at the moment, where literally everything in the boat is kind of individually wired back to the fuse box, which is in the port side stern berth. And so yeah, it's just way too many cables basically. Not helped by the fact I moved the depth sounder away from the engine where it used to be back to the V berth because I thought it would be a cleaner signal there, but obviously it's given me an extra wire to run back through the boat now. So yeah, gotta get speakers working, so many things, and the woodwork. So Dan is a carpenter and a very good one, and he's done miracles with his Hilliard, and all of the timber in this boat is in a terrible way, mainly because of water ingress. There's lots of staining. This cable was in the barn during the storm and got whacked about a bit and then rained on a bit. So the weird laminate on it's all kind of started to peel up. There's a lot of leaking goes on around here, and I don't know if you can see, you probably can't, but there's just a ton of wood staining. So yeah, not really sure what to do about that. One of his locker lids is actually, there's like an apple-sized hole rotted away in it. And of course all the cushions that were on top of them got covered in kind of manky water, so they're all mangy and you don't really want to sleep on them. So I guess that's another job actually, is replacing the cushions. I was just going to do the covers, but everything I've heard basically says after 50 years the foam will just be horrible and compressed and not very good at its job anymore. So one of the jobs would be to cut some new cushions and then probably have a go at doing the upholstery myself. Borrow mum's sewing machine, not that I've got a clue what I'm doing with that. But yeah, got to keep everything on a budget, so it'll be a DIY job, I would have thought. Hopefully it won't look too terrible. I was really happy with my splicing actually, which to be fair, so the local guy that helped me out, his prices were very, very good, so I could have just gone to him. I just fancied giving it a go myself. So yeah, but they've turned out really neat, nice and small. So yeah, happy about that, because that Traveller was an absolute death trap. What else? Radio obviously works again, which is good. I want to put AIS on that. Quite keen on that. My cousin is a commercially qualified skipper, and he runs the harbour workboat over here, and he is a keen mariner, and he's very much like, no, you don't need AIS, you need radar. And I'm like, mate, it's a very small boat. I don't know if radar would be that suitable for it, but I thought AIS is more suitable for a sailboat anyway. Because all the big commercial boats that are really scary should in theory have their AIS warnings on. His counter argument is with radar you can penetrate fog and see rocks and stuff like that, but I don't know, maybe I'm naively saying I wouldn't be out in those conditions, but I guess you're out in whatever you're out in if you're doing more distance. Is the splicing as simple as YouTube videos make out? Yeah, I would say so. I've spliced a few things actually. So on our asymmetric furler, which no one has ever seen on this channel because it spends more time in the boat than on the boat, different story. There's an endless loop, and we didn't buy an endless loop. We thought we'd try and splice one, and that was horrific to do, really difficult. And to be honest, I would say all double braid that I've done other than this one has been really difficult. This one was fine. That's I think it's 6mm line, but yeah, that was really good. And where they get difficult is where the core is chunky and the cover is tight, because you've got to do a lot of, I don't know if you can see it there, but there's an overlap of the core and the cover inside there, so it's kind of got a bulge, and so you're cramming in stuff that isn't originally there, and so if it's already tight, when you come to pull that through, it's really, really bloody difficult. To give you some idea, that I got it, I can't really give you a visualization, but I got it maybe halfway on is in the cover by hand, and the rest I had to stick it on a winch on the boat on a cleat and literally crank away at it with the big winches on this boat and the low gear to slowly close it up, then beat it with a hammer to loosen it all back up again, then try again. So it's quite a drawn out process. So not complex, it's a simple process, but it can be difficult to execute. So what I did, or what helped with these compared to when I did the endless loop, was the endless loop I used fids, and fids are chunky and they're good for some things but not good for others. And with this I bought this kind of like double wire thing that you pass through, and it just nips the end of the whatever you're pulling back through, and it's just much lower profile. And apparently for the really tight ones, which this possibly classifies as, you get something called a soft fid, and it's just basically another really thin bit of line, and that's much easier for pulling the cover through. So yeah, it is simple, which was your question, but it isn't necessarily easy. I'd say if you're on a boat and you're doing it though, you can just use the winches to just brute force it, and that is a recommended way of doing it. A lot of the riggers I've seen their workbenches, they have a giant cleat and they have a giant self-tailing winch, and presumably it's used for that purpose. So yeah, give it a go. Buy a cheap bit of line or cut off an old bit of line that you've got, and try an eye splice. Be interested to know how you get on. I haven't tried anything more complex than that other than the endless loop, which was, I guess, a similar idea. How are we doing? I'm going to open a non-tea based drink. Have we got any Americans on here? Anyone from the United States? I did specifically time it. Well, I moved the date to a Saturday in the hope that some guys from the US could attend, because like half my viewers are in the US, which is cool. The thing is, I don't know how many of us are at the moment. Don't know. Any more questions? Surprised my race crew haven't been moaning at me and asked me when am I going to be buying beers for the crew and other non-boat related questions. How far in are we? What time are we? 45 minutes. We started late due to technical incidents, brewing hot drinks and spillages and things dropping in the marina. I should have had the camera running then, really. It would have been much more entertaining than me just waffling on. Right, cool. I asked if the stream was okay. It says I'm still having issues, but no one said anything, so... I mean, people might be wishing it was running worse. No. So, what else has got to be done? I'm going to go back up the mast because Seagulls removed my electric wind anemometer cups. I replaced those, but also when I went up there, the what do you call them? The manual weather vane thing. There is a word. Anyway, it was dead. It was knackered, absolutely knackered dead. Bent the wires on the little kind of sailing limit indicators, and the arrowhead had just completely gone. So I need to buy a new one of those. Get up there, and is it Super Bowl tonight? No, it's not tonight. It's tomorrow night, right? Anyway, sorry. So yeah, got to go up there, put one of those on, because I'm actually surprisingly terrible at being able to tell which direction the wind's coming from. I really do rely on that visual indicator. I've even had it where I've rounded a mark before and then thought I was going on like an upwind leg and wondered why the boat's going nowhere. And then suddenly it's like, oh, we're on a broad reach. Boom. So yeah, I mean, that sounds really stupid, but it happens, I guess, when you're in those stressful situations with lots going on. So yeah. Oh, that's a tough question. What would be my dream boat? Crikey. Dan's gonna say Parasite. So there is another YouTuber that has I think it's a 34. Yeah, I think it's 34-foot. Basically, version of this. I can't remember what it's called, but cool. Super Bowl is tomorrow. Bugger, I can't remember. It's by Finno, and it's a 70s boat. Let me see if I can find it. But you're asking me about my dream boat. That's definitely not my dream boat. Rev de Seychelles? I don't know. It's difficult to tell because I don't know. Like if it was an unlimited budget and I had an unlimited budget to spend on ongoing maintenance and things, probably a cat, probably a big cat, because they just look so incredibly leisurely, whatever wind conditions they're in. And they're like wherever they are, crossing the Atlantic or rounding the Cape or whatever. They always just look so planted, even when it's absolutely howling. And they're quick, and they're spacious, and you get that huge area between the hulls. So yeah, I'd love a big cat. I think I wouldn't in terms of mooring fees, and actually for cruising the Channel Islands, maybe not so much. But if I was going blue water, I think I'd like a cat. Yeah, had a Hobie cat once. I still have a Hobie cat, which Dan's supposed to be buying. There's another story. I'm getting distracted. Right. Of your videos. Thanks. What are my future saving plans? Okay, so I'll try not to run over old ground too much for those that have been here the whole time. But in effect, in the short term, I'm looking to do like a 5-day to a week-long sailing trip this summer down to France. I don't know where I'm going in France. I need to liaise with somebody to find out what I can do, because I'm basing that around where dries out and where doesn't, because this boat won't dry out very well. So I'm either going down the Rance, which is a river off St Malo, or I'm going to St Malo and then going west. Not really sure yet. So that's short-term plans. A few more races. There is an offshore Channel Islands race, which is, I can't remember how far it is, 150 miles, 180 miles. Maybe it might be a lot more actually, but they ran that last year. We weren't back in the water in time and definitely wouldn't have been prepared anyway. But I'd love to have a go at that, and I'm sure my crew would be keen. It would probably take this boat 3 days to do it. So I'd like to do that. I'd just like to get a bit more experience, being offshore for more than a few hours at a time. So yeah, that I'm going to be doing some of the longer races in the race calendar. So Jersey, Guernsey, possibly Alderney. So all about, these are only 26 miles there, 26 miles back kind of things. But France will be the big one. And that's what I'm hoping to get the boat tidied up for and kind of a bit less flaky for. I may do that solo, although possibly in a baby flotilla of boats. Flotilla, how many boats is a flotilla? Don't know, maybe 2 or 3 boats. Or I might double hand it. And yeah, spend a few days down there. So excited about that. A She 36. Yeah, very nice. So yeah, sorry, a bit of a flaky answer on the dream boat question. I'm not all that good with various boat models. I mean, I think what will probably happen, this isn't dream boat, but I guess one day I'll probably look to pick something up around 35 feet, because it will be better for family. Hopefully something I can still race. Possibly a Bavaria or something like that. Not full plastic fantastic, but also probably not heavy hand built and expensive. But yeah, who knows? I can't see myself selling this boat though for a long time, because if I get this boat to the point I want to get it to, I won't want to sell it. And mooring fees over here are due to go up next year substantially, and this boat's only 26 foot. So, and it's fun. It's like a big dinghy with a roof basically, so it turns well. It handles the local waters quite well. It's Yeah, it's good for that kind of thing. They're supposed to have a reputation for being really good heavy weather boats, but that doesn't mean I'm a good heavy weather sailor. But the boats are supposed to be able to take it and go well through it. Um, I think it had a good reputation historically for winning races when there were high winds. Although, actually, one thing I will talk about is at the moment we just have a really big Genoa, which we can't reef because it's. I bought a posh Genoa that's made of like one bit of material, so it's not panels stitched together. And the one caveat to that, it's supposed to have very good sail shape, is you can't reef it. I mean, you can, but the guy said don't reef it, so presumably it will damage it or it's not reinforced to work that way. I have got my old Genoa, but that's at home. That could be reefed. But sorry, I'm waffling. My point is, we don't have like, if we actually want to get somewhere quickly and we want to run a jib, I own a jib, and it goes up, but because the tracks go from, I mean, this will be meaningless, but they go from here to here, which is fine for a Genoa. For a jib, they'd need to be like another 2 feet further that way, maybe 3 feet further, because otherwise our sheeting angle is really extreme, and basically all you can do with the jib is tighten the foot, and the leech of it is just open constantly. So maybe great for, I don't know, 40 knots, but yeah, pretty much useless in anything else. So I need to rig something up to run the jib properly, and I'll see if I can find a picture of what I'm planning on doing. Basically, at the base of the mast, there's some attachment points, and what I'm thinking is using. I might have one up here actually. No, I don't. But you can get these kind of low friction rings, and they're on like a little Dyneema strop thing, and you can use them as essentially foresail cars. So I was thinking if I attach this to the base of the mast, then I could kind of float it wherever I want it and use it as the sheeting point. The issue I've got is there's not much on the outboard side of the boat, so near the tow rail, there's nothing solid really to actually anchor it onto. There's the cap shrouds, but the cap shrouds, what can you see? Can you see where I'm about to point? The cap shrouds are in line with this, so not quite far enough forward to do it. So yeah, I'd like to work out how to do that. Other stuff I'd really like, I need a new mainsail cover because John bought the cheapest one he could find on eBay. It lasted about a year, and now none of the Velcro straps work, and we have to just tie it on with a rope, and it's really tight and really annoying. So I want a new mainsail cover. Oh, we have to drop loads of the mainsail out of the mast track in order to fit. And the foresail, because it's a posh one and we got no UV strip on it, which in hindsight, was it a good decision? Don't know. We have to raise it and take it down every time we race, which is a faff. And when you come in tired, the last thing you want to do is spend another 20 minutes pulling that sail down, wrapping it all up, bagging it up, and then folding it in here, especially if it's soaking wet or raining. So I want to get right. I want people's opinion on this actually, because I've heard really mixed things, mainly from a sail maker actually, and that is foresail covers. His argument is that they don't work, they're a waste of time, and everyone that buys them regrets it, uses them for a season, and gets rid of them. But I don't want to put a UV strip on this sail because I like the fact it's not compromised in terms of sail shape, and it flies well in light winds, etc. And so I want to get one of these covers that you kind of zip and you pull up with the spinnaker halyard, and then you tighten it, and it just wraps around the forestay, well, around the head sail. Because I could get that on and off in, a couple of minutes, and then you're just storing a folded down bag down here rather than the whole sail. So I want one of those, but I want people's opinions on whether they're rubbish or not. I've heard if they're not tight, they can obviously chafe the sail when you're just in port with the wind blowing past. But other than that, I don't really see what the problem could be with them. So yeah, looking at getting one of those. Christopher, on the race boat, we have multiple cars on each side and then use low friction blocks to allow us to bring the sail in close to the centre line. Yes, so my tracks are quite far outboard. It still works with the Genoa. We end up with quite a narrow gap between the mainsail and the headsail, so you can certainly choke that gap if you tighten up too much. So I wouldn't want to bring that any further inboard, but with the jib I probably would. And certainly I'd want the sheeting point forward. Yeah, otherwise it's basically a useless sail. The weird thing is, so when this boat was sold to me, it was sold for an absolute bargain price. I'm not sure whether to reveal that or not, or whether to make it, oh, big reveal, how much did I spend on my boat? It wasn't a lot of money, but it came with Dacron mainsail, Dacron Genoa, Dacron jib, I think, storm sail, storm head sail. What do you call that? Don't know. That's what it came with. It came with a laminate mainsail for racing. Came with a laminate Genoa, a laminate jib. Came with a light winds large symmetrical spinnaker. It came with a heavier winds symmetrical spinnaker. So it had a pretty good sail locker, and actually the race sails were almost brand new. They're in really good condition, mainly because the previous guys that owned it were quite old, and I think they were getting to the end of their kind of getting battered on a small boat, taking it out racing. I think they were done with that. So yeah, they're all in really good condition. Unfortunately, we made a massive mistake with the Genoa. We're idiots basically, and we left it up after a race in summertime, and for whatever reason I think the boat was getting really furry, and I was having arguments with the co-owner over whether or not to bother racing it when it was so dirty on the bottom, and so I basically refused to go out racing in it anymore, and we didn't really sail it, but we left this sail up, and after I don't know 4 months of it being in the summer sun, we did go out on a race, and we went for a tack, and one of the spreaders just penetrated the leech of the sail, and it was always going to happen. The sail was just absolutely knackered. The laminate had separated. If you pulled it with your hands, it would have split. So unfortunately, we wrecked a really nice racing sail. Yeah. Oh well, you learn. That was in like our first year of having the boat, so. UV, it is a thing. Who would have thought it? Other things I want to do. So at the moment, when I bought the boat, the backstay was adjustable, but it was on a turnbuckle. Not easy to adjust. So when you're out in the water before a race, if you want to tweak it, or during a race, if you want to tweak it, you had to get like a spanner out and another spanner. If we're short-handed, you're trying to hold the helm while you're adjusting the backstay. Absolute nightmare. So we replaced that with a block and tackle system with a bit of Dyneema. And so what reminded me of this is the UV, because really we need to change. I don't think Dyneema's got very good UV resistance. And obviously it's a backstay, so if it goes, it's not going to be ideal under load. So we need to change that. But what I actually want to do is it still mounts to a center point on the boat. And the issue with that is when you're cranking it in now by hand, it's quite difficult. It gets in the way of the, I can't remember what you call that, stern locker, the very back one. There is a name for it, but that one. If you try and open that, it hits the block for this backstay. So yeah, it's a real pain. So what I'm going to do is, and I've already got the hard points on the boat to do this, I'm going to split it, I think, and go to each corner of the boat, and that will A, allow me to open the stern locker with less dramas. B, we could put the backstay block and tackle system onto a winch and crank it in, although whether or not that's a good idea is something else. Yeah, so I want to do that at some point. And then on the cruising side, actually this is really important. So this boat is very difficult to get off. So I've been to a place called Herm, and I've I've anchored off home with my wife, and I've rowed to shore in the dinghy, and getting like, you know, we're reasonably young and it was fine, but dropping from deck height down into a dinghy, even when you remove the guard wire, was a little bit precarious, and that was in a sheltered area. God knows what it'd be like trying to get into a not a lifeboat, although that would be bad, a life raft. But yeah, it was awkward. So I would like some kind of stern ladder, or ideally even a bathing platform, but I don't know. I'm not sure how I'd make that work. Our push pit is one solid thing at the moment, so I'd need to have that modified so it had a gap in the middle of a wire. I'd actually really like to do that, and then have a little ladder down the back, because, you know, if we want to cruise it, if I want to take the family to anywhere and they want to get on and off the boat when we're not in a marina, it'd be much better if they could climb down a ladder into a dinghy. Although I don't know if the stern is the best place for that, because it tends to rise and fall a fair bit. But yeah, interested in people's opinions on that. Dan's trolling Josh. Yeah, we won't answer who broke the laminate Genoa, but yeah. So yeah, I'd like to do that. That would definitely help from a cruising perspective. What else would I like to do? Yeah, a bathing platform would just be cool. And the other thing is man overboard. Like, I can't imagine if somebody fell overboard off this boat, it would be a proper halyard down to them and winch them up with a halyard job to get them out. I think, like, there's too much. Is it freeboard, the height above the water? Like, yeah, it would suck trying to recover somebody, and without any kind of ladder for them to cling onto, they're never going to pull themselves up. So yeah, that's something I'd like to do. Oh man, I'm just thinking about all the stuff I've spoken about. There is a lot to do. There is a lot. The other thing is so while we're on the topic of the push pit, the pulpit at the pointy end of the boat. So the pulpit is the main reason we don't run our asymmetric spinnaker furler, and the reason is it obviously draws a line between the end of the bowsprit and the spinnaker halyard crane, and unfortunately that intersects with our pulpit. Now, when we bought the boat, the pulpit was shagged, for want of a better word. I'll find a picture of that because it was quite knackered. Yeah, here's a good picture. Give me a second, I will share that. There we go. Wait, can you definitely see that? Can you definitely see that? I'm going to assume you can see that. So, yeah, you can see on the leading edge of the pulpit there's a big kink in the metalwork. That was not supposed to be there. So anyway, we asked a fabricator to come down and remake it. And can you see that? Can you see that? Still not convinced. He came down, he remade it, but John, and yes, John, I'm going to blame you for this, briefed him incorrectly and basically said, replace what we've got. So the guy came along and he made a kink in the new bit of metal that matched that. And I was like, oh, John, what are you doing? Now, ideally, we would have shortened the pulpit, pulled it back 3 or 4 inches. It would have still given clearance to the forestay, but we could have then run our asymmetric furler with no problems. I'm still not sure. Can you guys see the photo when I was doing that? No, I don't think you could. Oh well. The pulpit is knackered, and we made a new one, and we made it in the same knackered design, so that was silly. Oh, there we go. It has switched. Wow, there is a huge lag. Yeah, sorry guys, there's a massive lag between what I'm saying and when it's getting to you, because I can just see the screen changing in front of me now. Yeah, so anyway, that needs fixing. I can weld and I can do bits and bobs, but that would be quite an awkward thing to do. I would need a bent bit of tube to remake the kind of leading edge of the pulpit, and it would need to be quite a specific size. I don't really want to do it. And my welder is in storage because the barn exploded. So you'll probably end up paying the guy to come back and do the same job again, but slightly differently. Because asymmetric spinnaker furlers are pretty cool. So this boat, obviously being an old displacement boat from the 70s, would never have been designed for an asymmetric. I don't even think they were around then. And it sails arguably quickest with a symmetric. And when I started racing, all the advice given to me from guys with a lot more experience than me was that don't bother wasting your time with an asymmetric spinnaker. It's an old displacement hull. You'll get your best VMG, velocity made good, getting somewhere basically, by running your symmetric. And you've already got a big head sail, so you don't need an asymmetric. And we ran with that. But actually, what I found was when this thing's on a broad reach, it's not that quick. And yes, you can run a symmetric on a broad reach. Of course you can. But when we run the asymmetric, I feel like we get more speed out of it. Anyway, I'm waffling way more than I intended to. So my point is I see a purpose in asymmetric spinnakers. If nothing else, when we're double-handed, they are much quicker to hoist and they're much quicker to drop and they're much easier to jibe when they don't take your aspect lighters off. But you still got to go up there and hoist it, right? And so we purchased, and this really did confuse a few people when we bought it in the race circuit anyway. We bought a top-down furling system for the asymmetric spinnaker, and we bought a bowsprit, mounted the bowsprit, and we have run this a few times. In fact, there's a hilarious race video of us where it accidentally deploys going upwind, but yeah, I'll link that at some point. So it's ideal, right? Because racing-wise, well, it's not ideal racing-wise. When you're going upwind, having the spinnaker always there, even if it's wrapped up, would disrupt the airflow to your head sail. But ignoring that, you can very quickly deploy the spinnaker when you round the mark, and very quickly pack it up. But cruising-wise, like if I was cruising with my family, which effectively means I'm single-handed, I could literally rig that system, because the spinnaker stays on the asymmetric furler even when you moor up and you pack the boat up. You drop the spinnaker halyard and you drop the whole asymmetric furling system with the asymmetric spinnaker still wrapped around it, and it just coils up very nicely, and you've just basically got this big coil you put in your boat, and that is your furling system and your spinnaker all ready to go. So when you head out, you clip it on, you hoist it up, you run the lines, and then yeah, if you're out for a day cruising and you suddenly are like, oh well, let's get home a bit quicker or get where we're going a bit quicker, you can just literally unfurl it like it's a head sail, and you don't need any help from your crew that may or may not be comfortable with trying to raise a spinnaker. And if it gets a bit blowy or a bit hairy or for any other reason you need to suddenly pack it away, you just wrap it up. So yeah. So I rate them. We just can't run ours particularly well because it rubs on the pulpit. We did run it, but we could see it kind of chafing through the cover on the kind of rope, the torsion rope thing that runs up the furling system. So yeah, we need to shorten our pulpit, then we can run that furling system. I'm quite excited about that. It's pretty cool. The only downside I'd say on a small boat is extra lines always run. So we tend to always have spinnaker sheets out anyway, but you have an extra furling line obviously, which you need to set up when you put this thing out, and that has to come back to the cockpit, and it's just another set of lines in already quite a cramped cockpit. So that's the only downside I would say. Yeah, and then that runs off the Trogear bowsprit, which is, let's see if I can share that picture for those of you that aren't familiar. There might be a picture of it down here. Oh, wait. Yeah, so this is like a wishbone design. yeah, like that. And you can retrofit it to um, older boats. It's not very difficult to do. You just drill 2 holes in your bow, pass this tube through, epoxy it in, and that's really it. Now it bolts on, and you can unbolt it and bolt it on very easily. You can raise and lower it, so when you come into the marina, you can lower it, and that doesn't affect your mooring fees because it's not a kind of permanent extension to the boat. So yeah, that works well. I'm amazed there's still people here. Just literally waffled very boring stuff about a very boring old boat for a long time. Another thing I want to do, so I mentioned earlier I want to put AIS in. So I would quite like, and this is just decadence really, it's not necessary, but I'd like to upgrade our plotter. So our plotter is an old Garmin unit, and it's alright, but the screen's like, I don't know, 3 inches big. You can't really, if you put any additional information up on the screen other than just the chart itself, you can't really see anything. On the plus side, it uses buttons rather than touchscreen, which I think is a good thing on a sailing boat because touchscreens are a nightmare. Matt, do you need any welding? Hi, Matt. Yeah, I need welding and a bit of fabrication. I need to chop off the leading edge of my pulpit, which is removable from the boat, by the way, and I need it shortened. I need it pulled back, but I can explain that if you ping me a message. What was I saying? Plotter. Yeah, so we've got this old Garmin plotter, and I just want, I would like a B&G Vulcan or something like that. Nothing too expensive, but it's obviously made for sailing, the B&G stuff. So it's got a lot of funky features like, I don't know, telling you how long you've been on one tack versus the other, and which is more efficient to get somewhere. So useful from a cruising perspective. It saves your tracks, which the Garmin doesn't, and I quite like that. I like to look back over the route I've taken. Did it work out as expected, as planned? Was it as quick? Was it quicker? What worked, what didn't? I like that kind of thing. And then from a racing perspective, it's got things like things that help you on the start line, like give you a countdown and how much time you've got to burn before getting to the start line, which is cool. Although I don't know why I'd mount it in this boat, because the problem with the current chart plotter is if there's anyone sat on port side or kneeling down, say, over the main winches, you just can't see the plotter. So I guess I'd kind of like something that flipped out into the companionway, but I don't know. I'm in the Acum de Mer owners group on Facebook, and I've not seen anyone do that. I've seen a few people put it in the like basically at foot height in the entrance to the cabin, but that just seems like a recipe for somebody kicking it and breaking the screen. So yeah, I don't really know, but I'd quite like to do that. But electrics are a bit of a pit, aren't they? Like you can spend so much money, and you can do so much. You know, you can run full NMEA 2000 systems and have very expensive sensors sending all kinds of data everywhere on your boat, but it's so expensive, and that it's just not this kind of channel. Whilst I want this boat to be cool, and I am technically inclined, I guess. Realistically, I haven't got that kind of budget to blow on it, so it will be making the most of what we've got, tarting it up a bit, and replacing selective elements of it. I think, to as best as possible do what funky new stuff would do, but on the cheap. Yeah. Any other questions? It's very difficult to tell. Oh, okay, I can see there's just such a massive delay on this. Oh, it's like a 2-minute delay on it, so this will be interesting. The delay's getting bigger. No. Right. Okay. Well, I'll carry on talking, and if any questions come in from when I ask that, which will be 2 minutes in the past, then I'll stop and try and address them. We've got a heads in this boat, and there's a common argument point. Do we strip out the heads or not? Now, I think I've used it once. I don't really understand marine heads. They scare me. John wants it gone. Yeah, he thinks it's manky, and I just want it gone. I want it cleaned up and usable. Again, because if I'm on a cruise with the family, then it's not feasible for everyone to go over the side or in a bucket. So, and not particularly pleasant. So, I think we'll keep the heads, but tidy it up a bit. The main problem tidying anything on this boat at the moment is the water ingress. It just, everything at kind of bilge level has rusted. Any bit of metal down there has, and so any water buildup you get is just brown, manky water, and it's caused the steelwork to expand and damage some of the timber. And obviously, it's not doing any of the there'll be marine plywood bulkheads, which some of them have been sat in it for like months. It's not going to be doing them any favors. Something I will say is I've spent a bit more time in the fore cabin recently tidying it out, and when I looked back, I'm worried there appears to be a gap between the leading bulkhead and the fiberglass top shell deck. Let's go deck of the boat. Now I'm not sure. It's difficult to tell, but obviously that wouldn't be ideal. And I don't know if it'd be indicative of it being whacked really hard or whether things have just distorted with time. Maybe the stress through the chain plates and through the lower shrouds has caused the deck to pull up. I don't know. Yeah, no idea. Oh crikey, I've been going for an hour and a quarter. Have a heads you can have. Thanks, Dan. No thanks, I think it's good. We actually have a heads, and the guy that sold it to us said it was actually new because one of the guys they used to race with, as soon as they ever sailed out of the pierheads of the harbour, one of them would always go and take a dump. So anyway, he blocked it one day. So yeah, they ended up replacing it, and I think that was allegedly just prior to them selling it. But it seems reasonably clean. It just an area I don't visit. Too terrifying. What else needs doing? The life jacket locker, there's a leaking above there. So basically a lot of the leaking seems to be from like this point to the front bulkhead, which is about 3 feet in front of here. And the base of the mast leaks. It leaks through one of the electric wiring glands, but not where the wires go through, literally the gasket where it seals of the deck. So I want to peel that up and either silicone it and clamp it back down or whatever. I think it's not leaking from the chain plates, but I think not the cap shroud chain plates, but the front lower chain plates. I can just see rust around them. I can see a ton of Sika. Worryingly, I can see a load of Sika on the inside of the boat. Why would you seal on the inside? It's a balsa core, right? So fiberglass, balsa, fiberglass. Why would you seal up the inside bit of fiberglass? Surely, if there's ever water getting to that, you seal the outside, right? Otherwise, surely that water's still going to come in and just soak the core, soften it, and then it's knackered. So I need to really just take those plates off, outside and inside. Pulling them off is going to be fun with all the Sika. And just reseal them properly, rebed them properly, check for damage there, possibly inject it with epoxy. I've had to do that elsewhere on the deck just to firm it up. But so when I first bought the boat, these boats are famous for it. Maybe it's something of this era, but I mean, this looks warped, doesn't it? But when you used to walk around it, around about here, it was like a bubble. So the outer bit of fiberglass would probably be like, pop, 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 pop. and it was just really disconcerting. So I followed a West Systems guide that basically says take that area, expand it a little bit further, drill a load of 6mm holes in it every couple of inches, and then you mix up this kind of epoxy mix with, I think, like a real light bit of possibly filler. So it's cat soup or whatever they call it consistency, and then you just go along injecting it and then clamping it down, and it yeah, obviously when it hardens up, it effectively is giving you a new core, if you will, or replaced what was your core. So it did that, not expecting it to work, and it seems to be fine. It seems absolutely solid there now. So I've got a fair bit of faith that I could go elsewhere on the boat and make those same fixes if required. I'd fix the anchor locker, so the lid of that, my first ever video, I think I open it and it's literally, there's one of the 3 hinges has survived. Yeah, that leads me on to something else actually. So yeah, I need to fix that. But the anchor itself has only ever been deployed in anger twice. Once in off a place called Rosaire Steps, where the water really runs hard, and it held. I was amazed. It was literally me and my wife. So effectively I was single-handed, and I laid down the anchor, I laid down the amount of chain I thought I needed, pulled the boat back on it, and it stayed. And I spent a good while on shore just like really eyeballing it to check it wasn't starting to drift, but no, that was good. And then I used it again in somewhere called Fermain, really picturesque bay off the east coast of Guernsey, and bloody well dragged. There didn't appear to be that much tide running, not like massively, but yeah, if you'd gone to sleep it would have hit rocks for sure. But we were only staying there for half an hour or so, but it was noticeably moving on GPS, so that was annoying. But dropping the anchor on this boat is an absolute nightmare. So we've now got a bowsprit, but that's not such a problem because you can just drop it, put it back against the bow, and it's out of the way, so that's fine. But the biggest issue is our furling system on our head sail. It's almost like it's made for a deck sweeper. I don't know whether it's because they used to race it, they've installed it like this, but most boats with a furling head sail, the drum will be, I don't know, 100, 200 mil off the deck, and you've got some clearance under there to run your anchor or whatever else, mooring lines. Ours is literally deck level, like maybe an inch above it. You can't run the anchor chain past it without it hitting it. So I can't, like, are you supposed to put the anchor in that little steel tube that's on the pulpit? I still don't know, which is quite embarrassing. But basically, if I put it in there and let go, it would just rattle my furling system to bits. So I had to like basically lift the anchor, take it through that gap in the pulpit, and lower it down. Yeah, I couldn't let go of it and let it drop. I had to hand lower it, and then when it was on the bottom, let out the amount of chain or line by that point that I needed, and then I would put the remainder in that little, whatever it's called, the little steel tube that it runs through. That's not how you're supposed to do it. People just dunk, 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 run it out. It's all good. But no, mine you can't do that on. So I want to raise the furling system. And really our whole head sail furler is knackered anyways. It's basically falling apart, and I'm sellotaping it back together to try and keep it alive. But you can buy these kits. So it's a Facnor ST100, which they obviously, like most things on this boat, don't make anymore. I think they stopped making them like 20 years ago. And they made these little plates for them, like 2 little brackets, so that you can just lift the whole unit, the whole drum up 100 mil, 150 or 200 mil off the deck. Now we wouldn't get away with probably 150 or 200 mil because we need that. We need the room at the top of the forestay for the Genoa. But we could raise it 100 mil, so 4 inches up from where it is now. We'd still have clearance at the top, and then we could run our anchor. So yeah, might do that. Still not convinced. I'm still not convinced, like, if I stuck the anchor and the chain in that thing that is attached to the pulpit, I think to pull the pulpit off the boat. But I'm not even sure the chain fits in that thing. This is one of those weird things, right? I've owned this boat 4 years, and I've been learning about sailing as hard as I can for those 4 years, and I've got a reasonable amount in of coastal sailing in that time. Yet I still don't know how to properly drop the anchor. I mean, I could, like in the emergency, I could just throw it off the side and let it just absolutely wreck the tow rail, or the edge of the pulpit. But yeah, need to learn how that's supposed to work on this boat, and I'm still not convinced it does. But yeah, so anchor locker needs fixing, and the furling needs raising so I can drop the anchor, and for other benefits as well. I priced up buying a whole new furling system recently, and it was minimum 1,300 quid really, which so in dollars it's probably $1,500 US dollars. So yeah, just a bit above, quite a lot above what I would spend on it at the moment, especially if my wife is dialed into this. I would never spend that kind of money. So yeah. This really sucks that there's such a big delay. Wait, is there such a big delay? Let me wave. No, I've got no idea how big the delay is, but there is one. Oh, okay, it's about 20 seconds. That's not so bad. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Now there's going to be a big blank patch for 20 seconds while I wait for questions to come in. Literally any questions at all. Or insults into work I've done and my general lack of ability to sail or know anything about sailing. I'd like self-tailing winches. God, I'd like self-tailing winches. I really would, because even when we're out racing, have you considered weapons systems? What, for race purposes? How much a mooring costs? Yeah, I can tell you that. So when we bought the boat, and up to this year, I think, they have been about 1,200, £1,300 a year. So yeah, whatever that works out at, £108 a month or something like that, which is great. But they are they're going to be going up substantially. I can't tell you by how much, I can't remember, but I think they're maybe going up 50 or 80%. They're talking about, which for our kind of boat is annoying, but for people with like 35, 36 plus boats, they're going up by, I think some of them are going up like maybe 200%. I can't remember, but yeah, that's all still being discussed at the moment. But for us right now, it's around about £1,300 a year. So not that bad. He's that in the corner. Hi Dave, I'm glad you're here, and I hope you haven't sat through almost an hour and a half of this. Drone-based weapon systems. So that's something worth mentioning. So I have a drone. I have a Mavic 2, and I'm reasonably good with it on land. And I love the idea of taking drone footage when I'm out and about, and I will do it. I absolutely will. But I'm terrified about not being able to land the sodding drone on the boat. I went on a trip to the UK last year, and we did the Norfolk Broads on like a canal boat, basically. And I took my drone, and I thought, well, if I can't fly it off this, moving at about 3 knots with like half a football pitch to land it on, I'm never going to be able to launch it on my boat. So I took off and it was all good. And yeah, I got some great footage. Norfolk Broads are a fantastically scenic area. It was a great place to fly a drone. And I came into land, and first issue I had was all the avoidance sensors were on. So I tried to land, it just wouldn't come anywhere near the boat. And I was like, oh man, because the deck was surrounded by how do I know? Gum whales? Is that the right word? Probably not on a canal boat, but you couldn't fall off the edge basically. And it was picking those up with its sensors and going, no, I'm not landing there, there's stuff. So I was like, oh crap. So while I was in the air, I was like trying to deactivate these sensors. And drones have like a lot of built-in protections so that you don't lose them. So if they lose signal fully, if they think they're in trouble, they just go, you know what, I'm going to fly back to where I took off from, land, and everything will be okay. And while I was doing this, something happened. I don't know if it got too far from where it took off from, or maybe the low battery warning kicked in, but it basically went, I'm off. Oh, it's raining hard. I'm off back to where I took off from to land. And it just suddenly turned 180 and started flying away from me. And I was like, oh crap, watching the battery percentage drop. So anyway, I turned it around and let's go. Thanks for dialing in, Christopher. Thanks, mate. Yeah, first stream indeed. Lots of issues, but hey, we got there. Yeah, so I fly it back and I'm like, right, I've basically only got a couple more shots at this before it's just going to run out of battery and crash in the drink. And I managed to get all the sensors off, but honestly, even trying to land it there on the deck, I did it, but it wasn't pretty. And I guess trying to land it, I see a lot of guys like French Sailor has an Akunda, man, much better YouTube channel. Watch him. He started one of these boats and he flies his drone from it a lot. And he flies it back and he catches it. And I'm like, how? How on this boat? It's so damn twitchy. Maybe he does it when it's on autopilot, actually, rather than when he's trying to helm. But the other thing is my drone, his wasn't a Mavic, but the Mavics don't have a lot of room. So to catch it by hand, you're really narrowly avoiding the props when you grab the body. So I think maybe what I need to do is 3D print like a big handle that comes off the bottom of it that would be useless for land, but for a boat would be good because it can just come in and I can just grab that handle. But once I've got that down, yeah, I'll try and get some good drone footage. I want to get a bit more underwater footage. But yeah, drone footage of this one going along under spinnaker, under asymmetric or something, that'd be really cool to do. I'd really like that. Dave Falzard, do you think there's any point to learning how to manually navigate with charts and pencils? Is it all about electronic stuff? Right, so Dave, I know your opinions on this. And I would say I agree with them. And that is that electronics are very useful. And obviously in the coastal sailing we do, well, no, even in the coastal sailing we do, if we're very dependent on them because of the amount of rocks around here. And if fog came in, and God forbid we had a lightning strike or the electrics failed, which on this boat isn't unrealistic, well, we'd probably pull out a mobile phone. But I guess say it was doing this, say it was raining like it is now, and actually you couldn't use your phone screen or your phone was out of battery. You know, you do have to go back to these kind of old methods to keep track of where you are. And actually you need to do it in enough time that you go, okay, here's our current position, bang, log that, and then track it from there. And so this leads nicely into, I've actually started doing my day skipper theory. I'm doing that online with a company called Ardent. They've been very good videos. Hopefully I'll have something I can post up for them, like a referral link or something soon. But yeah, thanks, Dan. Obviously a big area I'm not clued up on is the kind of more manual navigation aspects of it. But I'm really keen to learn. I understand the principles, you know, it's basically vectors, right? You know, direction you're going, the amount of leeway you're making, and the direction tide's going, and it's just vectors. But I would love to learn all of the proper theory around it. And actually, I would like to go a step further and learn the whole astro navigation. I have an interest in astronomy. I'd really like to buy a manual sextant and just learn how to do that as well. I'm not sure I'm ever going to need it, but I love the idea of it. But yeah, I would say we've become too dependent on electronic navigation systems. And I guess with everything going on in the world at the moment, you know, are they going to be that secure all the time? Are they going to be that dependable? You know, there's so much conflict going on in the world, and GPS can be spoofed. And whilst I don't sail in an area at the moment that it's likely to, well, hopefully, likely never to affect, there are certain parts of the world where I imagine that those techniques are being employed. And so, yeah, I think it is. I think there is a point to learning the manual methods. And I'm certainly going to look to do that. And if I was doing any blue water sailing, I'd consider it essential, absolutely essential. Dan, underwater footage with the drone. Yeah, I'm not sure how well that would work. That's the problem with drones. As soon as they hit the water, it's not like you can sail over to them and recover them. They're going to the bottom fast. Yeah. Cool. Right, well, it's getting up to 10 o'clock, so I'm happy to stay on, but I don't know how much more I have to say. So unless people have questions, which I'm happy to answer, we're probably getting close. And I bought more than one beer, and I'm only on the first one. I've only had a couple of sips. I guess that's the problem with nobody being able to talk back. It's just me waffling on. No time to drink. I guess I will go back, Dave, and say that there is definitely a point in learning manual methods, but I do think electronics do bring a lot to the table in terms of, you know, just the data they can give you. Matt, what's the plan? What's the ultimate destination? So I'd be lying if I said I could accurately answer that. So this year, hoping to do, well, by far my biggest ever sail. I've never even done an overnight. So I'm hoping to go to France for 5 days, possibly solo or possibly double-handed, on Perrichet. So I guess that would be my first taste of going more than 26 miles away from Guernsey. So that's this year. There's some racing going on, as always. There's an offshore race. It's 100 or 200 miles, I think, around this area. I'd like to do that. Just basically get experience on the longer trips, basically. Because we very much end up racing everywhere, even when we're cruising at the moment. I just want to get into some chilled out sailing. But long term, so get the boat nice enough that I can take my family on it, and we can actually go for like a small holiday, a week in France or somewhere, or the UK, or maybe even Spain or Portugal. Maybe not Portugal with all the orcas, but yeah, something like that. That is my intent with this boat. Get it to that point where it's safe and stable and comfortable enough that I can take my family on it. Thanks, Christoph. Thank you for staying as long as you have as well. Great to talk to you. Why do the French trip solo? Right, hold on, let me just finish what I was saying about that. So yeah, get the boat to a point where it is nice enough, safe enough, and convenient enough to do a family trip. Family trips. Would I go further afield on it? I guess I'm at a point in my life where I've got a young family, and it would be difficult to do any blue water cruising at the moment. I would love to cross the Atlantic in this thing and spend a season in the Caribbean. I really would. And I guess that's my ultimate aim, is to get there. It's just making that work with life, right? So in the short term, it's pushing out on those kind of more, I don't know, up to 100 miles, up to 150-mile destinations, I guess, that you can do in a few days. That's the kind of short to intermediate plan. Will I do the French trip solo? So initially I said I wouldn't be comfortable with it and I'd prefer to do it double-handed. I probably would prefer to do it double-handed, but hey, would I be that uncomfortable soloing it? I don't know. I've only got an electronic autopilot. I don't have one of these fancy weather vane style ones, so I'm possibly limited in how long I can go under autopilot for. So I guess that would be a mild concern. But France, you can do in, well, how long can you do it in? On a good day, I have looked at this actually. St Marlo's, I don't know, probably 11 hours away on a maybe 10. Bad day, 13 hours away. So yeah, do you need an autopilot for that? Why, do you need an autopilot for that whole trip? No, I wouldn't say so. Mooring up and stuff solo in unfamiliar areas, I'm not that experienced with. Dropping the anchor solo, I have done, but my anchor's difficult to drop. So I don't know. I'd like to do it solo. It would be a challenge solo, but I'd be quite excited to do it. Dan says he'll be free to come with me, but I'd rather Dan board his own boat. Actually, he's got a couple of suitable boats. Have I read Kensuke's Kingdom? I haven't, but I'm interested. What's it about? Guernsey to Marlow we did in, I can't see because there's a heart emoji above it. 9.5 hours and a 35 Halberg Rassi. Yeah. Yeah, so 9.5 in a 35-foot Halberg. Yeah, I still think best is probably 10 hours in this if everything aligns, tides with us, and we've got an asymmetric up or something like that, and we're going well. Worst could be really bad, but I guess if conditions were unfavourable, it'd probably still be, if we had to run under motor, 13 hours, I guess. So yeah. What's Kensuke's Kingdom? I want to know now. It's getting cold on this boat, crikey. What else? I would like to do more solo sailing. In fact, so I'm actually planning on doing my first solo sail. I just don't know when. Possibly next few weeks, actually. I don't know where I'll go. I don't know if it'll be another island. I don't know if it'll just be round to a nice bay on the south coast. I'd like to do an overnight. And then solo it back just to get the experience, really. And I just love the idea of being solo on the water. Yeah. I feel like I've missed out on that. That's what all the YouTubers do, isn't it? They're all going off everywhere just on their own. Or with their partner, who they then use for the thumbnail. Damn it. Dan, get the mankini out. Right. I think we're probably getting there now. How's everyone feeling? Is everyone done? Any more questions? We have to Google Kensuke's Kingdom. What is it? Is it about solo sailing? Is it about the Combe de Mares? Not seeing much detail. The adventures of a boy stranded on a tropical island. I mean, that's basically Guernsey, except less tropical. More craggy. Cool. Right, it looks like people are dropping off, so I think I'm going to say goodnight. Apologies for the late start. Sorry if that was meandering. It was definitely meandering. Maybe next time I'll write more of a plan. But thanks for coming. It's been great to have the questions. It's made me realise how much there is to do to the boat and how far behind I am. yeah. Anyway, all the best. Now, how do I close this? How do I close this? Thanks, guys. Good night, everyone.